Ready? Okay, good. So it was, my talk was about the talk's name was Surviving PTSD, 5 A's to Thrive, or Beyond PTSD, 5 A's to Thrive. And so it was kind of, people kind of joked about it and stuff, but the best part was I got to introduce myself, which was perfect because, I told them my background, what I do, and even the pre-announcement, the physician that announced me or introduced me said that, we always have somebody come in to give us a different perspective on things, which is true. I mean, and so it was really well received. And there were numerous people that came up to me after and said, "Oh my God, thank you so very much." And, administrators were coming up too, because, I have a retreat that's coming up in May. And so my goal is to fill that. And I got a lot of people who are interested in coming. And I'm in the process of working through that and getting them on board. But I had one administrator who was a nurse and said, "You know what? I think my whole staff needs to come to this retreat." So that would be like a dream come true, because if this is the organization that's running this and they're getting to see what the problem is, and basically I believe what the problem is that a lot of healthcare providers are empaths, intuitives, and highly sensitive people. I think they experience things at a way deeper level because they're connected emotionally. I also feel that those group of people are here for a specific reason, to really teach and enhance people to learn how to feel, basically, because we're in a society that doesn't feel at all, period. They will do anything they can to ignore their feelings, stuff their feelings, put them on a shelf and maybe deal with them later. But energy is energy. Or they intellectualize their feelings. That means that they're in their head, and a good takeaway is like when they are saying, "Well, I think I feel." Well, you can't think you feel. You either feel or you're thinking. And so when you combine the two together, it's intellectualizing your emotions instead of experiencing them.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting because I feel that these people really have a struggle, because I personally am one of those too. And I told them, I am one of those. I'm close to 60, I'm 60. I just turned 60 last week. My whole life has been this. And the beauty is that as a healthcare provider, I have maneuvered through this, and I actually for the first 30 years of my life, it was a survival thing until I woke up and realized what was really going on. And I realized how to maneuver through this. And now I want to help people maneuver through this. So they move beyond surviving to thriving. They move beyond having these things work against them to learning how to have them work for them.
Well,
and that's basically what it is.
Did you try to be a traditional nurse in the beginning?
Oh, hell no.
Oh,
oh no. I've always been wired differently. The whole traditional nurse thing was just, I would question everything. I wouldn't buy into, what people were saying, because it's just like my intuition was always talking to me because of that sensitivity. And, I'm not a person that likes to be put in a box to do things. To me, that is a limitation of my freedom.
yeah.
And so for me to really survive and thrive, I had to step out of corporate America and do my own thing, because it would have killed me. It was like being a caged animal.
So you'd never worked in an acute care setting or any of that?
Oh, I have. The first 10, when I graduated in 81, for the first, I would say 10, 12 years of my career, I spent time, on the floor. I spent time in pediatrics. I spent time in the ICU. I spent time in the operating room as a, perioperative nurse. But it was tough, because I think for me, my whole experience of being in the ICU, I just felt things so deeply that my boundaries were a real issue, and I didn't know where I ended and somebody else began. But also the way I was raised too is, you always put everybody else first and you come second or last on the list. That was the culture in our family and the lineage stuff. But yet it was like sucking me dry all the time. And I was exhausted, and I would start getting resentful because I didn't understand why, here I am doing these things, but why wasn't it feeling good? It was not making me feel good at all.
Yeah.
Until I realized that one day I was in big trouble because the only thing, when you work in a hospital, you work shifts, and I was rotating between day shift and night shift. Sometimes I would do an evening. And after about 3 years in the ICU, this is what my motto was. I want to work night shift. I don't want to have to deal with patients' families, and I want comatose patients because
Oh,
I just couldn't deal with it because it was just too overwhelming.
sure.
That, and so shortly after that, I was contemplating, a lateral shift to like the surgery department. And I think the thing that really strung a chord with me is that I was driving to work and I missed the exit to get off. I said, okay, I think I need to change. So I did a lateral, transfer, and God bless the director of surgical services, the nurse who was there. She was like in her 60s at the time, and I was like in my mid 20s. And she looked at me and she said, "What took you so long?" So
So
she knew. She knew.
she saw the burnout.
Well, I think she realized that I had come home to where I needed to be.
Uh,
And so, and actually we remained really good friends up until she passed away probably about 10 years ago. She was like one of my first mentors, but she saw something in me that, nobody else had. And so she said, what took you so long? I was like, well, I had to kind of experience a few things. And I'm like, oh my God, because she was really into, at that time, Dr. Bernie Siegel was working in that department. And I worked with him, as a staff nurse on some of his cases, but I was always fascinated with him because this man was way ahead of his time because oh my God, and what a delight to work with. And I just resonated with him and what he was doing. I mean, I just knew these things. And so, that it was a very special time for me because it was just like, okay, this was on the cusp of woo-woo, but it was just like, it's happening. And I know this is true because I just know these things. And it was nice to be part of that, but it was also, he really had a challenge of a time with his colleagues as far as thinking that he was the total cray-cray. But yet he had the foundational pieces of what, alternative and holistic medicine is today. As far as the connection with loving yourself and your, the connectiveness of your inner knowingness and your inner physician. I mean, it was all there. But also that energy is everywhere, and people, even though they're unconscious, they could hear you in the room. And, of course, the anesthesia was like, oh, no, no, no. And it's just like, oh, yes, yes, yes. So, yeah, I so appreciated that experience. It was just awesome.
what do
So,
you think about this topic that is called some places moral injury?
tell me more about it. I'm not really familiar with
Well,
it.
what I heard a doctor, maybe you've heard of him, Z Dog or something, Z Dog
Oh,
MD.
yeah. He does the videos and the singing and stuff. Yes.
He was just on a rant about that there is no such thing as burnout. That's like blaming the victim. And he said, what we're struggling with is moral injury because we can't do for people what we know needs to be done. And So I could resonate with what he was saying, except that I think there is a real thing called burnout.
Yes, there is. And I don't agree with him. Let's put it this way. I don't agree with him 100%. I think that, yes, there is that aspect of it. And there's also the burnout too.
That's
I,
what
bel
I,
I believe that the criteria that has been placed upon healthcare over the last several decades, where you have to do way more with less, definitely contributes to this. But I also think there's another aspect. When you have people who are highly sensitive, intuitive, and empathic, they're going to feel things way differently. And it's about being able to harness their energetic essence, so they are able to protect themselves and work with what is not working. You don't know what you don't know unless you know what you know that old saying, you don't know what you know until you know it. And so I think that's a piece of it too. I believe what he's talking about is definitely contributing to it. It's adding another layer to the situation. But there's also the other layer of, with that whole matrix there's a lot of fear with that. There's a lot of lack. There's a lot of controlling and force, a lot of manipulation.
right.
And it's an old paradigm, because you cannot continue to push people to that degree without there's being some physical repercussions where people start getting sick because of stress.
Yeah. I was talking to an oncology nurse, and she told me that sometimes people with leukemia, their extended chemotherapies, that the chance of success and survival is very small.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying that for her and some of her nurses that she supervises, this feeling of the patient not having the information they need to make the choices about how they're going to be at the end of their days,
Yep.
that this hurts their hearts.
Oh, without a doubt. And you have to remember too, there's always multiple aspects to each situation. Okay, where have these patients given away their power completely to something outside of themselves, instead of listening to what that inner knowingness, that inner physician is telling them? Because a lot of times people, don't want to take, for whatever reasons, they don't want to take accountability. They don't want to rock the boat. They're out of fear. It's out of fear mostly that they listen to something outside of themselves that may not be aligned with what your physical body is talking to you about, because they're so disconnected from themselves, they have no idea.
Right.
So it's really, there's multiple aspects to that. So, what is a solution? Empowering people to learn how to trust their intuition, connect with that aspect of themselves, enter a state of being or mindfulness or self-awareness, where you wake up from this whole facade that people consider to be normal.
Yeah.
This is not normal, folks. This is being duped into believing that this is normal, and it's not. You have choices. You have free will here.
When you were working with Dr. Siegel, did he have ways of strengthening a patient's intuition, or was that part of your role?
I didn't have that type of role back then. I was just, in the operating room, but I just knew things because I started my path when I was a teenager, and that was 10 years into it, with all this, guided meditation and connectedness, inner knowingness. And, just the other thing too, I was just a natural intuitive. It's just like I would get hits all the time. So it's like I, was learning to trust that intuitive muscle. Do you know what I'm saying? So, trusting that and feeling that. I know that, some of the stories that were shared, I know early on in, I wasn't there per se, but it was told to me that one of the patients that he was operating on, because he was an oncology surgeon, so he operated on a lot of cancer patients. So that was his area of expertise. And he found that sometimes when things were not going well in a surgery, he would talk to the patient and the patient's tissue, like, somebody would be bleeding and he would talk to them by the first name, even though they were anesthetized. We really need your help in slowing down, stopping your bleeding a little bit and helping us. And it would happen.
Wow.
And then he also, things were not going well. This is another story. And he was telling the patient is just like, you need to come back to us right now. It's not your time.
Wow.
And so what happened was, unbeknownst to him, the patient heard everything, and he didn't realize that until he visited the patient post-op. And she said to him, I heard you telling me it wasn't my time yet. So that's what I'm saying. It's just like, so to me, it was so clear that people could hear everything in that room unconsciously, and that why would you want to say something negative to somebody that would hinder their healing process? To me, that is like a sanctuary where these people entrust their lives, their body, mind, and soul to you, basically.
Right, yeah.
They're anesthetized and you're holding the space for them. When you're awake and that, you're making sure that everything's running smoothly, that there's no arguments and there's no negative stuff. Joking and jovial stuff and fun and having fun, that's good energy. The patients feel comfortable with that because they know everything's okay, and it's creating a more loving, playful environment. Whereas if somebody's having an argument, this is not good, folks. And it's just like, that's when you save that for, you pull people out of the situation, because ultimately you're there for the patient, and you may not agree, but this is not the time to have a fist fight. Because that's really, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's not good energetically. Why would you want to subject somebody who is entrusted your life? You're in charge of, you're holding the space for them to have the best possible result. Yes, we take care of the mechanical things that, we need, the instrumentation and stuff like that, but it's also just holding the energy of just a loving environment, and just radiating love from your heart space to the room, because it's just, that's the important thing. And connecting energetically, heart to heart, to this patient as well that's anesthetized.
Well, they were lucky people that had you standing guard for them, Dolores.
Thank you. I still do that on occasion. I mean, I'm still, as I assist in surgery a couple times a month, and that's what I'm doing there. That's what I feel that that's my purpose of being there for whatever reason. And, just because, it is the ultimate compliment, and it's such an honor when people come to you and it's like, oh, I'm so glad you're here today. You just made my day better. It's just like, just knowing that I was there. It speaks volumes to me. I'm just humbled because I'm just showing up as who I am. And, it's all about, to me, it's like, we're going to have a fun day today. It's going to be awesome. It's like setting the intention, and it is. And it's just like, there's a lot of joking and a lot of fun that happens, and, teasing the people in the room, it's fun stuff, and it's all beautiful. And, that's what it's really all about. It's all just being in the moment too.
Well, it's really inspiring to talk to you, and I appreciate your time today so
you're welcome.
much. So you're getting ready for a retreat when?
In May 15th to the 20th. It's going to be in McLeod, California, which is an old lumber town on the I want to say it's on the southeast side of Mount Shasta. And yeah, so that's up in Northern California, just about 20 miles from the Oregon border, but inland from the West Coast about 4 hours.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, it's beautiful. They've gotten a whole ton of snow this year, which is just magical as well. So I'm sure there's going to be still a lot of snow around in May, because it's about 2 months away, this event. So
What's the topic in case any of our listeners are?
yeah, the topic is 5 pillars of extreme self-care, and it's a retreat for empaths, intuitives, and highly sensitive people, and those who feel too much, feel deeply. And so it's really about learning how to set up your own blueprint or your own manual for self-care, because each one of us is different. And I joke about this when I give talks. It's like, anybody ever wonder when you were born that you were such the odd man out, that you never fit in, and you're always wondering how to do things, and you also wonder, where the hell where's my manual that I was supposed to come with? And so I said, well, guess what? You're creating it now. It's going to be your own special manual for you. So, I joke about that, but I used to say, when I was a little kid, it's just like, I just don't fit in. I'm not getting it. Where's my manual? I need a manual to know how to fit in, because it was just like I was like bumping into walls, trying different things, and it just was not working. Or, it was just like, bulldozing through my early life, hitting obstacle after obstacle. And you're like, okay, now what? It's just like,
Right.
really? And it's like, I look at somebody else and it's like easy peasy. And I'm like, did I, what happened here? So, yeah.
I can
So,
relate. I used to think, these people are so mean. Why are they so mean?
well, that's it, that too. And it's just like, so many of us who are really, sensitive and empathic and highly sensitive, that is like the normal script that I hear from a lot of people. I'm just not afraid to talk about it. I just talk about it very openly, because to me, it's just like, what you see is what you get. Been there, done that. I can't expect people to do things that I haven't experienced.
Right.
It's like leading by example.
Exactly.
And so, you see this in healthcare too, taking care of patients. These nurses don't take care of themselves. They have health problems. They're maybe morbidly obese or obese. They're overweight. And they're telling their patients, you need to watch your diet. You need to do this and this and this. And it's just like, okay, so this person you're telling people to, and the person's probably thinking, well, hell no. It's like, she doesn't do it, so why should I?
Wow.
It's like that whole mentality's got to change. You need to show up aligned with what you're doing, instead of like a misalignment, because it's so obvious, because it's energy and people could feel that.
Right.
So it's just like, I think you could be the best person for somebody when you walk your talk and you lead by example.
Well, exactly. Where can they find out more information? Anyone who's interested?
They could go to my website is Recovering Healthcare. And if they go to events.recoveringhealthcare.com, that will lead them to the events page for the Mount Shasta retreat. What I'm really excited about is that I'm bringing all my experience to the forefront with that, with the intuitiveness and the healing and experiences. And people are going to learn how to inwardly focus on them and I'm going to say reconnect with that inner knowingness of who they are, or that reconnect with themselves at a real deep core level.
Yeah.
And I've got some wonderful things that we're going to be doing. One of them is a visit to a sacred site on the mountain to do a very deep healing meditation with a friend of mine by the name of Lori Ladd, who is actually she's a channel of there's an underground city of Telos underneath the mountain. It's an etheric city. If you read up about Mount Shasta, there's a lot of information about Telos, Telos. but it's an etheric city that actually does exist under the mountain. I have been there numerous times. I have a connection to that. She's going to connect us with a group to go for a deep healing within the etheric area of Mount Shasta, but also she's going to reconnect people with their star families, because we are all here from other galaxies. And I know this is going to be on the cusp of woo-woo for some people, but many of us are here from different places. We, are not from Earth. We've come here on a mission to help heal Earth and raise the frequency and teach about emotions, because people, like I said before, just don't like to feel. And, people have been led to believe that they're the crazy ones, when in essence, they're the evolved ones that are here to teach. So it's about flipping that around a little bit. And then we're also going to have a sound healing evening of meditation by another practitioner up in that area. Her name is Jamie Liu, who's an extraordinary healer, and she uses sound therapy. And then we're going to be having a fire release ceremony on the last day that we are there with a colleague of mine. Her name is Karen Wisemantle, and she is a shaman. She was, believe it or not, a dermatologist, and probably about 10 years ago left her practice and decided she wanted to have more of a shamanic presence. That one's temporary. We're not really sure. We haven't finalized the details with that. So that we're definitely having fire release ceremony, but we don't know who exactly is going to be the facilitator for that. So it's going to be a very delicious time, because in Mount Shasta, there's just a lot of healing. All you need to do is just show up. Mount Shasta is like one of the real big power centers of the earth. Just like Sedona is a big power center, and then you go to Machu Picchu and some, the pyramids in Egypt, and even some places in Asia as well. There's a lot of healing energy in these, and it's concentrated in those areas. So people just show up and basically start having healings and attunements and activations. So it's all delicious and yummy. The best part is that the pricing includes your accommodations for the 5 nights and 5 breakfasts, and probably 2 lunches and a dinner as well. So I'm really excited to be able to provide this for people. I think it's the perfect vacation for somebody who is not quite sure what's next for them. They're stuck. They don't know how to get off the wheel of doing, where, it's learning how to reboot and recalibrate yourself so you're reconnected and aligned with who you are, so you can move forward on your path with a lot more ease and grace.
It sounds wonderful, Dolores. I'll put a link under the posting when I put it in the
Perfect.
nurse group.
You should consider coming.
I would love to. I'll have a look at it.
Have a look at it.
I just can't thank you enough for your time today.
You're so welcome, Kristen.
See you another time, maybe.
See you another time. Blessings.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.